Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome to another exciting, head-scratching episode of Insane Disappearances. Um, Today's story is about a man named Raymond Juranich. He went missing on 10/08/75 at Ogoki Reservoir in Timiskaming, Ontario. He was at the age of 48 when he disappeared. He was 6 feet, 198 pounds. Now the Ogoki Reservoir is 50 miles northeast of Armstrong, Ontario. It is a large body of fresh water with several small islands. Raymond Juranich went hunting and fishing in that area. He set up camp on one of the small islands. Something tragic had happened and he disappeared. His belongings was found strewn about, the island, and it was like someone got upset and destroyed it. It's interesting that his camp was destroyed. Like it just, it got destroyed in a very isolated area. And this is an area that is it's an isolated region, with few people that visit that area at that time of year. Like I said, that was like towards Thanksgiving and Christmas. Now Raymond was last seen in an aluminum canoe. It was like a 15-foot aluminum canoe, and it was powered by a 9.8 horsepower outboard engine or outboard motor. Raymond was, he was a very rugged outdoorsman, and he knew the area very well. He knew the outdoors very well. But Raymond has never been found. Now, with a lot of these cases, we're talking about people who just seemingly vanish without a trace. All without a trace. Now, all we know at these points is that we know that they're going out there to do whatever: camping, fishing, hiking, hunting, whatever. But somewhere along the line, when they get there, if they know what they know, they either figure it out by going to the area and they see a campsite, so they know he camped there, and they know he was in a canoe. Because whoever was in that area saw him with the canoe, and they saw him probably getting on the water, or they probably just knew he was going to be on the water at that point. So they said that they saw him in the canoe. So all these things that they know up until the point where he just all of a sudden vanished without a trace. Now, they said that his stuff was strewn about the area. So they know it had to have been some kind of a struggle, maybe, or maybe he went mad, or maybe whoever was there and took him decided to destroy the campsite just so to make people think that something happened, when really all that probably happened was he was somehow subdued and then they took him. Now, for them to not leave any evidence whatsoever, they didn't say they said his campsite was destroyed. Now, whatever else may have been found, we don't know. But there was no him. He was never found. So, at this point, to know exactly what happened probably would never happen, because it is just that mysterious. You just vanish without a trace, and that's it. That's the worst part about all of these cases. You know what they're gonna do. You know where they're going, and the evidence that they find in the area about the person, as far as what they were going to do or what they were doing, that's all they find. And at that point, there is just nothing but pure guessing, or whatever the case may be. In his case, all we know is that he was camping, and he had a canoe, so that means he was on the water. And I believe somebody obviously saw him on the water. But when they went to the place where he was supposed to be camping at, boom, all they saw was a strange mess of campsite items. So, other than that, all we have is pure guessing, and that's it. And, no evidence whatsoever. Of course, the mystery is, where did he go? And that's it. That's the biggest question: where did he go, or who took him? Because it makes it look like there was a struggle. There was no blood found, no nothing. It's just that, his stuff was just thrown all over the place. Now, just like with a lot of these other cases, the same thing happens, except in most of these cases, there's these weird facts that surround the case and the disappearance of that person. Some cases, you have a dead body with no cause of death, and you have them being half naked with no shoes on. And if you find the shoes are sitting on a log or whatever the case may be, and they're pristine. The body is dry in a wet area, and they will be in the area that where they shouldn't have been in, where it was probably hard to get to in the first place, But in this case, it's just a typical outing, with a person who knows the outdoors very well. And I find that that's another big thing. A lot of these people that are being taken come to the woods, and they come to these camps, or these national forests or national parks. They target people who love to come to these areas, and these areas obviously have these portals that lead to these other dimensions or other worlds. And sometimes you just walk right into them and don't even realize that you just walked through a portal and ended up on another world. Sometimes because you see these beings, like that one story I told in my last video about this man who walks into a real strange area of the, of the valley he was in, and he walks over there, and then when he walks into that area, he realizes that he's somewhere else, and it's a completely different world. And he sees these beings floating towards him. He backs away and gets back to wherever he was before. Now there's a lot of strange things happening in these, out there in the wilderness. Things that we're not very aware of. But like I said, there's just so much strange stuff going on. It's hard to even determine or dissect, what it could be. We know what it causes, and we know what it can do, but we don't know what or who it is. And I'm gonna tell you right now, it is not a who. And if it is a who, it's some type of who from another dimension, another world, another reality. Just like that woman I told you about in my last video about Linda. She actually digs into information about this stuff, like upright dogs that look very hairy and be running after animals, getting food. Now, obviously, animals aren't the only thing they're eating. They're obviously eating humans as well, because of the people that's being found dead. But not so much people that's being found dead, but their bones, and their bones are like eradicated to the point where the only thing that's left are tiny little shards of bones, or just a tooth, or the top of someone's cranium, or it could just be shredded bones, lying on the ground everywhere. Okay, so whatever this thing is, it can devour a human, to the point where there's nothing else left. Okay, now I'm not going to say that weird creatures are the only thing that is causing this. There is a plethora of different creatures that are either working together, or one single being is using the characteristics of every other creature for this one problem. Okay, because think about it. All these different scenarios are being found in all of these disappearances, where, like, you got the night marchers, who I told you about before, where you show them respect by stripping down to your clothes and burying your head in the sand. You know, now I've heard other stories about that where they say showing them respect is to get down around the ground like an animal, pee on yourself and smell like one, all kinds of crazy stuff, you know, and laying down in the sand with your head buried in it, you know, half naked or naked, is one of the, you know, criteria in that area. Now, you find these in all these deaths where these people are half naked and they're face down in a creek somewhere. So they use those scenarios of all the folklore that is found on this planet, you know, and they add that to the mystery of what's going on. And they add so much to it. That's what makes people so confused as to what's really going on, because you got different things that are being found about it. It's like, okay, you got you hear about the I told you about the trolls that be running after people, running after the farmers and the children and eating them alive. That is added to all this stuff too. The eating people alive part, because think about it. You know, you find nothing but bones in it, like tiny little shards of bone. Okay, no muscles, no blood, no guts, no nothing. Everything is clean. Okay, you know. So, and then there was the part about the green mist that I said something about in my last video. How the green mist is always the green mist. I think they had a track camera that was, you know, I guess mounted on a tree, and it picked up a picture of the green mist hovering around, or it was like it engulfed an animal, and in the next frame the animal was gone. So this green mist has some type of intelligence, to where it is either being controlled by an intelligence, or the green mist alone is an intelligence. What kind of intelligence? I don't know. I mean, what kind of intelligence, you know, is a green mist? I don't know. But this green mist, it actually can turn and do all this, because there was that cop I told you about, where he was sitting in his squad car and he saw a mist in the distance. It turned, came towards him, went over his patrol car, and as it did that, it knocked out all of the electrical components in his car. You know, the car just went dead, and he saw the green mist just kind of go off into the distance. And you know, that lady Linda said that it's also attracted to bodies of water, which is another indication in all of these cases. Bodies of water. Okay, so all this stuff is surrounding everything dealing with these people that disappear, but they have separate, like separate causes or separate reasons for being here. Okay, you got these creatures that come in from these different worlds, and they can disappear and reappear instantly. So they know how to get there and back. They might not have food on that world, so they come here to feast, where they eat the humans and they eat the animals as well. So I don't think it's just the animals. Because when she's talking about these creatures, she only talks about the animals that are being eaten or chased after by these creatures. But on the other side of things, you got David Paulides talking about humans that are being eaten, along with vanishing without a trace. Okay, they seemingly walk into these same portals that these creatures come through. Obviously, you know. And one account about a woman that called into Coast to Coast AM, I mentioned this before, where she said she was in her car and she realized that she was in some other world. She saw aliens and all this stuff. But the main thing was she walked into like this wall of energy. It was like a vortex, and she ended up on the other side of it, where it was just this completely different world. And she saw things that she couldn't explain, you know. But the point is that she saw it. Just because she couldn't explain doesn't mean that it wasn't real. That she saw with her very own eyes, you know. And she got out of there too, you know. So there's a lot to be said, but a lot of people are not. They're not willing to believe it because it goes beyond their belief system and their logical thinking. I believe it. I do. I always have, because I just have that type of mentality. I believe in these things because it's there. If it's being talked about for so many years, trust me, it's there. And people are just too afraid to admit the fact that it's out there. You know, because you never know what's going to happen until you actually go out there yourself. I, for one, don't want to go I don't want to go to a national park. That's my choice. Now, David Paulides would tell anyone, if you like the outdoors, you like the wilderness, don't stop going. Just be prepared. Have yourself a gun, a personal locator transponder, and be within a group. Don't go out there by yourself, because the main ones that disappear are the ones that are alone. And even if they with a group, they wait until they are alone, then they're taken just like that. They are just that cunning and that smart and that quick. They know when to strike at all times. They know how to strike to the point where there's no evidence being taken. There's no evidence found at all. There's evidence of what they did and what they can do, but there's never any evidence of the person or persons or beings that do this. And it could just be a creature with a high intelligence, or like some type of werewolf type creature who has the brain of a human, or has the mentality of a human, or the ability to think like one, where they come up with all these scenarios that only a human could have thought of. Like the one story she talked about where they had this I forgot, some type of wiring that they had. It was very strong, and they said it was cut precisionally, like as if they took a laser and just cut it. Because I think they said it was attached. They attached like a phone, an iPhone to an animal, and they had it intertwined with wire, and it was cut precisionally by something. The animal was taken, but the phone was left behind. So it was smart enough to cut the wiring attached to the phone off and take the body. And this wasn't a human, because it was way too raw and fresh for any human to take. So it was obviously some kind of a creature that has a very high intelligence, And people always say dumb animals, so they don't believe that animals are smart enough to do stuff like that in that way. But obviously they are. Just that they're animals that aren't from here, So that's my take on this. But that's all I got for right now. Stay tuned for more stories as I post them, and I shall return. All right. Aloha, mahalo, and hoo. Be safe, guys. Peace.